Thank you, everyone, for joining. My name is Juan Carlos Lopez. I'm the Director of Teaching and Learning for the Maple League of Universities. Coming to you from Mi'kma'ki, the unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people. I say these words as my commitment and my compromise to listen and listen and listen. And a very dear colleague of mine says, once you are done listening, go back and listen and listen and listen again, so that we learn. And what I want to learn is I want to learn about what has happened. I want to learn about the truth of what has happened and what still happens in our lands. And with that, works towards the decolonization and indigenization and reconciliation in our country and beyond. And I do that with the recommendations of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. I also would like to acknowledge that these lands where I'm coming to you from have received people of African descent, different waves of people of African descent, and the official record goes more than 400 years. But that first record is actually of a person that came to be a translator between the Mi'kmaq and the colonizers. So you figure that there must have been contact before that of some sort. So so that we see that even that story in itself is rich and as is the history that has followed after that. But in any case, I do that in the same spirit of listening and learning and working towards a better future for everyone. So with that, I would like to welcome Dr. William Ancoma. He's joining us from St. Francis of Xavier University. I'm going to keep my introduction really brief, and I'm going to let William introduce himself a bit further. But I just want to thank William for being here today and all of you for attending.
Thank you so much. I'm originally from Ghana. I came to Canada 17 years ago as an international student. And so when this invitation came, and I had the option to take any topic, but I decided to actually go back to the research that I've been doing with international students. That's why the title, as you can, let me share my screen, I'm sorry. Okay. All right, I think we can see my screen. Perfect. So that's why the title of my presentation is From Discovery to Destiny, Delivery, How We Will Embrace and Support International Students in Higher Education, particularly in Canada. So I work in St. Francis Xavier University as an assistant professor of education. I teach elementary social studies, inclusion courses, and sociology of education as well, and other courses when called upon. I am really happy to be here, and let's get into why we are here. So I'll be happy to it's going. The goals I have for our session are, first, I want to highlight the contributions of international students to our institutions and our Canadian society. I also would like to engage the audience briefly in an appreciative inquiry. Many of you, maybe this is the first time you're hearing of appreciative inquiry. I would want you to stick around so we try something, see what you can take with you. And then finally, I will share some of the findings from my work. Let's look at some of the contributions now. So as you can see on your screen, I will read for the sake of those who are unable to decipher information from text, so everyone can benefit from this. And we have the closed captions on also. So if I take a pen to actually highlight a few things, our 147 public universities, they spent 28.9 billion in the 2018-2019 academic year. That was pre-COVID. And then in 20, sorry, so 20, 2019, they spent this amount, exactly, right. And the previous year, 2017, 2018, they spent similar amount too. But the revenues increased by 3.1%. So they made 30.7 billion. But what I want to point out here is that tuition fees from international students was over 1/3 of that 30.7 billion. So we're looking around 11 billion 1 year amount of money that came from international students. Very small. So the Canadian government in 2022, that's during COVID, actually stated this from their report that international students contribute over 22.3 billion a year. And they compared it to it being greater than the exports of auto, lumber, or aircraft. That is huge. That aside, we're looking at international students also being huge talent pool. We've heard about the aging population here, and so international students coming in to actually help out, to serve Canadians. So these are some of the contributions, and there are more, as you can see. A report that came out in 2023, but the study was done in 2022. If you look at the numbers here, where international students actually contributed over 37.3 billion into our economy, translating to about 1.2% of our GDP, and that is really significant. I'm giving you all these context to set the stage as to why we need to care for international students, give them the respect that they need in our country and our institutions. And if we look at here, looking at this contribution, 37.3 billion, government numbers saying that about 361,000 jobs, which is equivalent to almost 250,000 full-time employment positions. But the question is, how many of us here, or those who will listen later, are directly employed because of international students? And we talk about international students having to pay more because they don't pay taxes. They didn't pay taxes before coming here. But here is the thing. Once they are admitted here, in 2022 alone, their taxes amounted to 7.4 billion into our economy. And I decided to take Ontario, which is not really doing well when it comes to government funding to universities and colleges. So in 2023, Indian students alone, what they put into Ontario universities was about 2 billion, whilst government put 1.8 billion. We're talking about only Indian students, not those from China or any country from Africa. Let's get more specific. So I pulled these figures from institution's website. It's there, I didn't make them up. This academic year, 2024-2025, University of Toronto, if you're taking computer science, your domestic student, you're paying $6,100. International student is paying $61,720. Now, if you do the math, you're looking around 10 times. University of British Columbia, in their BEd 60 credit program. That's for a domestic, that's for international. McGill University, Bachelor of Arts. This figure is for Canadians who are not Quebecois, Canadians who don't live in Quebec. And that's for international. If you live in Quebec, your fee is about 2,900 and something. It's less than 3,000 because you're a Quebecois. And then I brought my own institution. Undergraduate, we're looking at 10,000, and then international students, they pay that much. So all these higher tuition, if we put them into perspective, Musa Peter is telling us that the difference in terms of undergraduate is about the average. So you have some paying more, some less. If you find the average, you're looking around 5.3 times. And then for graduate, you're looking around 2.9 times. I think we've all heard over and over that international students are paying 3 times more. But as you have seen, some are actually like 10 times. And we should not be surprised that current and ongoing government cuts is bringing all these sensational headlines. Universities facing across the board cuts. Some are actually saying it's like an earthquake. We're all shaking. Centennial College, 49 programs cut, people laid off, staff and faculty. Sheridan College started it, 40 programs gone. So when you look at all these things, sometimes you're troubled, you're angry. But I'm saying no, we should not be angry. Instead, we have to think about the international students who are already in our system and those who will come and create the conducive environment for them. And that is why I want to center part of my talk with you on a research methodology or a theory also, or actually a philosophy of life called Appreciative Inquiry. And Appreciative Inquiry was theorized by David Copyrighter when he was doing his doctoral studies with his doctoral supervisor, Suresh Srivastava, in 1987. Copywriter was studying at a hospital, collecting data, and everything he was doing was about what was broken there, the challenges. It's like too problem focused. So they set out to critique action research, which is more problem focused. They said, can we turn the conversation into what is actually working here? What is giving us life here? Although we have problems, but can we find what is still keeping us going? And they allowed him to do that. From that research, they gave birth to Appreciative Inquiry, which is more of a strength-based research approach. You make a deliberate effort, it's intentional, to look for what is working well, and then you actually dream of what you want more of. And when you get that, you have to really come up with actionable steps, recommendations. They call it provocative propositions. You have to come up with those to be able to turn those dreams into reality. So when I say from discovery to destiny or delivery, there's a journey. And I want to take you through that journey a bit. But I pulled this quote also from Copywriter and Whitney, which is so dear to me. It says that the questions we ask set the stage for what we find. And what we discover, that data becomes the linguistic material, the stories out of which the future is conceived and constructed. And so if we put in front of us and see the world as problems, international students' accent is bad, they don't understand English. International students, problems. Now housing. So we need to cut the number of students coming in. Then we're too problem focused. We're in crisis. We're hurting. We're not sleeping well. But if we shift to ask international students here, what is actually working well in the relationship we have? They're contributing money, talent. I hate to say it, but cheap labor when they are studying. We see a lot of good things, and some are doing innovative work to grow our institutions and our country. And so Appreciative Inquiry says, let's shift our problem-focused orientation into more of a positive outlook. In fact, it's a paradigm shift. And it's not easy for many because we're raised to see the problems, what is broken here, rather than what is working well here. And when they theorized this, copywriter and colleagues theorized this, they said that Appreciative Inquiry does not have a formula. But over the years, as they used it to help the United Nations, they used it to help US Air Force and other churches and other institutions and organizations. And personally, people used it, shifted the narrative from problems to opportunities to positive outlook. They realized that they kept on hammering, oh, let's discover what is working here. Let's dream of what we want more of. Let's design how we can turn those dreams into realities, and let's do it. So they came up with this cycle you see here, the 4D cycle. Other variants are the 5D cycle. In this cycle, the first thing they say we should concern ourselves with is we need to deliberately look for a positive topic. So let's take our relationship with international students, or take your workplace or your home. Instead of looking at international students, the accent is a problem, can we look at, oh, they understand some English, and go from there. They understand some English, the medium of instruction of this institution. They understand some French, the medium of instruction of this institution. They understand Spanish. They can understand, yes, the accent is different. But what do we want? Can we then now dream about a situation whereby we have other programs to help them, right, to polish things and actually do? And so you find a topic which defines the scope of what you want to do. And once you have the topic, you go to the discovery. What gives life? What gives us that joy? What's working in this relationship? It's not what is broken. And then we imagine. Now here, I want to emphasize, you really need to think free. You need to cut yourself loose, just cut all constraints. We need to teach ourselves to dream. We need to really make that effort. Years ago, I dreamt of having a PhD, and I worked to make that a reality. So one of the principles of Appreciative Inquiry is anticipatory. You anticipate positive image in front of you, and then you work towards that. If you see international students as a problem, your workplace as a problem, your relationship as a problem, your shoulders just drop. If you see it as, yes, we have challenges, but something is also helping us, but what we want more of. So let's really make that effort to dream. learn to dream of future possibilities. Once we dream, as I said earlier, you design, you come up with the strategies. They should be, as they say, really provocative. Like you look at it, this is not doable, but no, it's doable. People dreamt of going to space. We've gone to space. Having computers, we have computers. Flying, we're flying. Building ships, we're in ships, all kinds of them. Institutions wanted to have this program, worked, put, a committee together. Now we got that program. We want this course. We got that. So it's all about dreaming and designing it. And then let's do it. The cycle does not stop. You look at what is working, your dream, your design, and of course, you need to rediscover, redream, redesign. And so it's a positive outlook. That's why I said it's a philosophy of life. And one person can do it within yourself. It could be two, could be group, could be an organization, institution, and you can adopt appreciative inquiry. So I'm just going to ask us to do a tiny bit of activities. And if you don't mind, you will type your responses in the chat. But take a minute to consider this. Wherever you work, whether you work with international students or a different portfolio, you work with new immigrants. You don't work with new immigrants, not international students. Just you wanted to get something out of this talk. You work with people or yourself. I want you to consider this. So what has worked well in your experience supporting international students? That's if you work with international students. Are you a professor, staff, or what's one thing you have done for international students that made a positive difference? We're looking at the positive, right? So let me pause for a minute, and I want you to really take your time and think through this. If it's not international student, wherever you are, is your relationship, workplace, just type what is working well in that. I pause for a minute so you can send whatever you have written. And I don't see the chat, so if Rachel and Juan, you can monitor that. Oh, I think I can actually see it here. Yes, we got one here. Yes, I have my international students do public presentations on their home countries or other topics they are interested in, putting that positive perspective on it. Share with international students the decision-making parameters of Canadian universities. Excellent. Be more intentional and respectful of food choices. Yes, I appreciate that. Giving international students the opportunity to showcase their talent, right? So when you look at these things, when you give them that platform to showcase what they know, their talent, it means a lot to them, and you feel proud of doing that also. I mean, they're paying for this high tuition to get quality service. It's about quality service. Are we giving them the quality service? Are we making them feel proud and happy? Yes, they're paying 3, 4, 5 times, and they are still paying. So my research is, yes, whatever you're charging, they're paying, though it's, astronomical, and we can talk about the moral implications of all these things. That's not the focus of what I'm doing here. My talk is more about what can we do? What can we recognize to build an excellent relationship for these folks rather than seeing them as a problem? You can feel free and go through the chat and read the number of them. I love it. I love it. Thank you so much. So let's look at, so that's the first phase. Once you have your topic, right? Now you discover. You can keep typing, use UDL to support different, absolutely. So how can you use UDL, Universal Design for Learning, to really make sure that international students benefit from the teaching and learning you are offering and they're paying for also. So the second round will be, let me, not, okay, there we go. It moved now. All right, so now I want us to dream. Imagine the ideal experience for international students, okay? It's not something you're doing right now. Think about your home. Think about your workplace. Think about your work with international students. It's not something you're doing, but you are imagining, you are envisioning, you're dreaming. So imagine the ideal experience for international students. What would that look like for you? Or if international students had the best possible experience, what would that different be? Again, I'll pause and then you can send your responses in the chat. Go back to the chat. I know at the dream stage, it gets a little harder because, as I said, we are not taught to dream. And I'm challenging you to really dream. Just imagine what quality program, practice, experience we can give to these folks to really feel that, yes, I belong. So we have some here. Food is so key to connecting with home. So ideally, we would have food from the cultures represented. Yes, at the cafeteria, right? And we, integrate Asian food, African food. I mean, when I say Asia, I'm talking about the continent, big, different countries in there. They do have some commonalities in terms of the food they like. Africa, 54 different countries. I don't even know whether it's more now. Last time I checked, it was 54. And, bring in some African food there. Something that is offered on a regular basis. It's not just when it is a function or African month or this or that, like ongoing basis. I hope international students would have the time it takes to engage with their learning as opposed to having them work. Exactly. So here you're dreaming about tuition here is so high, their coffers are empty from back home. And so now they need to pick up 2 or 3 jobs to be able to pay this astronomical tuition they're paying. And so that dream alone helps you to sit down with your institution, right? To discuss. It's a dream. If we're able to go to space, it's something that can be done. As now governments are realizing that no, by cutting the funding so much, it's really pushed universities and colleges to charge whatever. And now as they are cutting the number, they've seen that institutions are hurting. And so some are beginning to inject money into universities now. And that's how it should be. It's not that we rob Peter to pay Paul, as they say. No. They will feel part of communities that are broader, yet perhaps more localized than exactly. So you're thinking about some extracurricular activities where domestic students, international students, even faculty, and then the communities, right, can come together. They play badminton, they play soccer, they play volley, they build that community. Because after all, it's not only about studies and work. We need to get them to interact and play. Multicultural experience, it's fantastic. I thank you all so much. Okay. not talked enough for international students. Thanks for, yeah, thank you. So we need to go to the next stage of the cycle. And this is it. I think when I go up, I need to come and hit double. Yes. So here, you're going to be provocative. You're going to come up with some recommendations that your institution might think, no, what are you thinking? We can do it. We don't have the money. But guess what? They are paying 3, 4, 5, 10 times. Why can't we do it? So feel free and come up with whatever provocative propositions you have. So what actionable steps can you or your institution take to make this vision that you just shared or you're thinking about a reality? Or what's one thing you or your team can do tomorrow, in a week's time, in a year's time to make this ideal experience happen? Again, let's go to the chat, pause for a minute, and then let's see how you're thinking. And I think you can also unmute yourself and talk if that's your preference. So I go to the chat here. I know it gets harder here too, because you really have to dig deeper to come up with these recommendations or propositions. See themselves represented. See. So one, that's a dream or a proposition. I think you are muted.
Both.
Both. Okay. All right. Yeah. Thank you. Neil says, so long as there are fewer international than home students, international students could easily be paired, buddied with. Yeah, you can do the buddy system, and some institutions are doing that. Where I had my PhD, they do it. Global lounge, finding a space. Yes. So, in your dream, you say, we want to have a global lounge. Now the proposition is, okay, how are we going to do it, right? Come up with the steps. We need to find money. We need to find a location, right? We need to get those who will run it. That's what goes into it. So it's not just, this is what is working well. This is what I want to have. And then that's it. You really have to dig deeper and deeply about this. Let me take one more. Select incoming students before they come to campus. This is arrival. The menu, yes, absolutely, right? You have this information, and so you factor it into the menu, the plan. It's not that they come and then everything. I will tell you my own story. So I came to Niagara College in 2007, and I went to the cafeteria, and every food was, of course, culture shock even started at the airport. The cafeteria, I didn't know any food there. Yes, of course, I know sandwiches and burgers, but it's not common in the Ghana I come from. And I didn't know what to choose. And then I saw something on the menu, big breakfast, that looked really good. So I took that. And for weeks and months, anytime I went there, and they served it all day. Even lunchtime, I said big breakfast. Until later I learned the names. Many international students don't know this. And so if we can really get their input, okay? I have one quotation from Claude who says that the best way to serve international students is to actually ask them, student voice. You need to ask them, what do you want? And so appreciative inquiry is a very inclusive orientation. You don't sit in your office and then decide. You take it out to ask. You sit down and then you theorize, you come up with the ideas to do this. Thank you all so, so very much. And so now here, I'm not asking you to do anything here. So the destiny, you got to implement what you say you want to do to turn the dreams into reality, right? You need to commit. In fact, it's deliberate, it's intentional, and it needs commitment from the leadership, if it's institution or your faculty or department. If it's just you, you also have to be disciplined and commit to do it. Other than that, then it becomes a useless exercise. So now I want to share a bit. I'm looking at the time here. We have a bit of time. I want to share a bit about research I've done with international students. And so one, I ask about their dreams. So I call it voices and visions of using appreciative inquiry to see the ideal experiences they want. And it's out there, it's published, it's open access. I also have conditions. This research was done during the second wave of COVID. And I remember asking participants what was working well for them. And everybody was stunned. It's COVID. We can't go out. We're troubled. And you're asking me what is working well. But when I directed them to look at, that one is also tied into my dissertation. And I will come back to what I was saying. So again, methodology was appreciative inquiry. I asked 2 primary questions. There are secondary questions there. And I interviewed 14 participants, all international graduate students, and I did 3 focus group discussions. In all, I had 17 participants, and from 7 different programs in the same institution, because I wanted that diversity, that diverse perspective. And the themes that emerged, personal well-being and sense of belonging during COVID was really huge. Many of them, because I asked a positive question, now see how they described what they were getting from their institution staff. This is not instructors or faculty. The staff, those who worked at the offices to help them. They said they were nice, friendly, but look at from focus group, if you can read this. Faculty staffs, they were not talking about, again, professors here. Yes, they talk about challenges, but what's going on here is that somebody has been so supportive. This participant was actually dropping tears when they were describing what this staff person has been doing. And what I want to underline here is he is always willing to listen and talk to me. Now we talk about instructors themselves, okay? Faculty, professors. This is what the participant says. Says, I believe they are genuinely interested in our progress. And then this participant finishes with, I have noticed that. So we see, when we were students, we saw teachers who cared. In our workplaces, we see who cares. international students also, they notice. And what legacy do we want to leave in their minds? What impressions we want them to have about our institutions and our country? And here is another one. But I want to pick on something here. They're doing so well, but when I compare pre-COVID to now, before COVID and now during COVID, I can see a significant difference in the support I'm receiving from professors. I find them more kind and gentle, and that means a lot. But here is the thing. So before COVID, what was the relationship? Were they treated anyhow? Just ordinary? But COVID came, and all of a sudden professors understood that we need to care more. So I wonder how, post-COVID, how the relationship is. My friends, those who work with international students in whatever capacity, it doesn't have to take COVID for you to be nice. You signed up to really serve. It's service, to serve, and you want to deliver and feel proud and leave a good legacy. Supervisors, those who directly, oversee theses and dissertations and what have you. This is what Eve says. Do we take the time to understand who they are and where they're coming from? Do we know the cultural shocks they're going through? Do we know their financial circumstances? Yes, we ourselves, we have issues and challenges and problems. But do we really make the effort to understand that these folks are actually one of the vulnerable populations, demographic, in our campuses and our country? Because they don't know anywhere. It's a vulnerable group, really, despite the money and everything that they're putting in. They are the ones to easily break the law. They are the ones to even not see that they have access to so many things because they're overwhelmed with schoolwork and finding their way around. Can we be there for them and with them? And then Evans also showers some praise to the supervisor. Grateful to the time, the advice, and the resources that they share freely. After our conversation, Evans actually, and these are our pseudonyms, Evans actually talked about how the supervisor occasionally would take him for lunch. And that meant a lot. So what do I want you to take away from our coming together today? I just want you to see that international students, they enrich our campuses, our programs, the diversity, the different perspectives, the economic contributions, and that we need to be intentional to support them and respect them. They are not a problem. In fact, somebody has visited your home, you want to give them your best, and we need to give them our best. But we need policies, programs, and practices to really help us build strong, inclusive, caring, loving relationship. To help international students themselves, domestic students, and the institutions, we all should thrive. It's not international students thriving, others not. really we have to move all stakeholders along, international, domestic, and then institutions. And I want everyone to, after this presentation, start searching a bit about appreciative inquiry and see what it can do for you. Ever since I came across appreciative inquiry in 2017, when my then doctoral supervisor gave me a job and said, "You're using appreciative inquiry," I didn't know anything about it. And I was like, I need to go learn something new. And then as soon as I started reading, I said, this is it. This is me. This is me. And here I am. I use it to do equity work, anti-racism work, international student work, every work I do. And it's my philosophy also. So I want to thank you all so much for supporting international students. And that's how you can reach me. And I think at this time, we'll end for a Q&A, but my references are all here too. But let's have the Q&A. Thank you all so much for listening. I appreciate this moment a lot. Thank you.
Thank you, William. This was a wonderful and I will say very timely talk and an approach to higher education in general. You know, to the different work that we all do. So thank you. I just want to put that out there. So with that, if anyone has a question, I guess you can raise your hand or mute yourself and ask the question directly. So let's see. Any questions from the audience?
Yeah, you can type it in the chat if you don't want to talk, or just unmute yourself and then bring it out. Let's have a conversation.
Go ahead, Larry. I'm probably mispronouncing your name. Go ahead, ask your question or type it on the chat and we'll read it.
All right, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay, so I want to say thank you for this great presentation, Williams. So my question is, so now, I think you might have heard or you have seen a lot going on when it comes to international students, and they have even cut off some of the programs that when you are done, you might not even get work permits and those kind of stuff, which is actually putting a lot of burdens and depression on international students, paying this huge amount of money. And after school, you might not even know your clear pathway of for the way forward, what you are supposed to do, and even planning to go home after school without a work permit or without any permit to work or to even achieve your dream, the reason why you are here. Do you so the question is, do you think it is worth it for international students to come to Canada and spend this amount of money, and after that the person is supposed to pack and go back home?
Thank you for that question. This is a question that is not directly related to this talk, but I think I will say something. So international students come here for various reasons. Some come to study and go back. Some also come, study with the aim of staying. Some wants to work and go back. When I was coming, I was just coming to do my 1-year program, work for 1 year and go back home. Then day one at school, I actually met my wife. That changed everything. So that's why I'm still here. Else I wasn't coming to stay in Canada. And my partner wasn't coming to stay in Canada too. Right? So we have different reasons why people choose to come here to study. And so if the intention of a student is to come to study and stay, you need to plan well. You need to know the policies. You need to understand the policies. You don't just come, throw all this money up, and then you're kicked out, right? So whatever the incentive, is it the prestigious credentials you're going to get? Is it taking what you have here and going back home to really, get that gainful employment you're looking for? Or is it to stay? I think I'm going to leave it there, right? It's really, it depends on the individual. Now, there's a lot of politics into this. And for political reasons, we can spend days talking about political reasons. Yeah, but thank you so much, Ladi, for that question. Do we have another question in the chat?
On the chat, Constance said, you said that the U.S. Air Force has used this method. Do you have a reference?
Yes, let me get it for you. It's a book I have, and give me 1 second here. Let me go to my PowerPoint. It's in my references there. I just copy and put it in the chat, okay? Yeah, right here, if you should be able to find it in this book. So come on. I can't even see where to click to put it. Okay, right here. So there is this one here, but there is a smaller book that I can also find quickly to put it in the chat for you. The one I put in here is rather bigger.
William, if I may, I'm gonna add the devil advocate's question because I did go looking for Appreciative Inquiry when we connected, and
Okay.
I understand the reason and why you are doing it, and that only motivated me further to explore what your work is about. But so wouldn't if and I'm willing to bet you have heard this question before. Wouldn't this be sugarcoating the truth? Wouldn't this be I don't know if you call it too positive to reflect what reality is. So what's the answer to that?
Thank you for that question. So in Appreciative Inquiry, we say that we surface the problems behind the positives, right? Appreciative Inquiry does not say ignore the problems. I have put a second reference. This is a smaller book that you can read, and you'll find the institutions that Appreciative Inquiry has been used to support. Thank you so much. So here is the thing. When you look at it, it's like, because we're coming from that deficit-oriented mindset, it makes topics on Appreciative Inquiry, things on Appreciative Inquiry look like this is just too sweet, right? We have problems. Yes, we do. So here is the thing. In your office, there is clearly, you have a lot of issues going on, but you look at communication, it's even a problem. But instead of researching into what is causing poor communication here, you could actually ask the question, what causes good communication here? And what do we want more of? So as you find that actually, when I'm chatting with you and I can look straight in your eyes, that means a lot. When I see you on the hallway and I say hi. And then, so now we can dream about it. What do we want more from our communication? And we say, oh, maybe we actually need to have a monthly get together. We have to do this, we have to do that, attend each other's programs, right? Support and that kind of thing, being deliberate about these things. So Appreciative Inquiry does not ignore the problems. And it's not that ideological. I mean, wait a minute. In our world, the way we do things, what is not ideological in the first place? What is not political? Everything, right? But I'm looking at it from the angle where instead of making people feel bad, I walk to your office, you are in charge of environmental protection or this or that. And I'm like, one, you're doing nothing, right? See, I think you have every right to throw me out of your office because you're doing something. But of course, things are not moving the way you want. I mean, people want, right? And even you. But when I come in and say, wow, one, I think we're doing good. We're doing amazing, but we can do more. I start from that perspective. You're ready to listen to me more versus me coming to condemn everything you're doing. That problem focus is really not helping us. There is a hand up, Sarah, as we're running out of time.
Go ahead, Sarah.
Mhm. Did we lose Sarah?
Hello.
Oh,
Yes, Sarah, please unmute yourself. And
I may have muted you and tried to unmute you, Sarah. You want to try and?
Now am I listening?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I'm so sorry. I'm on my phone. I'm sorry about being on the phone. Thanks, William. This question is about from the activity when you ask the question, what are the things that bother you about working with international people? I think that was one of the questions. Or what are the challenges you have had? I wonder if there is a bridge that you can speak to between getting faculty or staff to do that type of self-reflection and then, bring that forward into their own appreciative inquiry of, how working with someone that has had challenges for them to work with has helped them, but years later they figured it out. I don't know if I'm making the question clear, but I feel like there might be a couple of links between what you said of think of the challenges you have in this and then think of the dreams. And I'm talking about particularly working with faculty, maybe not the group listening to you, because it sounds like we're all trying to do this constantly, but with faculty who don't have that appreciative inquiry mindset and or reflection mindset.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
To kind of make the leap. I hope that question is coming out. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much, Sarah, for that question. So actually the question was more about deliberately looking for what is working well, the positives, right? As I said,
Yeah.
if we go look for challenges, we're doing action research, right? So we find problems and then we intervene, administer the interventions, right? That's not the focus of appreciative inquiry. But the thing is, if you want to try appreciative inquiry to, bridge the gap, what you need to do is, and I'm going to use the word again, you have to be intentional. The questions we ask, they give us the data that we work with, right? And so you have to reframe. You reflect and you realize that I'm too problem focused. There are challenges. Yes, I know the challenges are there, but how do I really not get sucked into perpetual problems, millions of them? There is still life. I want to find that life and grow it. And for me, when it comes to working with international students as faculty, you need to really understand where they're coming from. Even if you refuse to look at the economic benefit, you need to know that there may be people who don't even know APA. They haven't heard it before, like myself when I first came here. There may be people who have never presented their work in front of class. It's always test exam. And now you're asking them to present their work in front of people. Everything is new. And so if we can understand this and stop accusing them of you plagiarize, where they're coming from, maybe they don't have to cite. We got to teach them, really. I'm not sure whether, Sarah, that helps. and I'm mindful of the time.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. That does, and you pinpointed that we really want to reframe, but
Yes.
and that's going to take some work. I think that takes some real dedicated active
It's a
work,
paradigm shift, really.
that reframing and some
It's a
processing.
whole new orientation. Thank you so much. I think at this point, Juan, we need to wrap it up, right?
Yes, we are. We are at the. We are past the top of the hour. So one thing that we usually do to say goodbye to our speakers, just at your own comfort, if you can put your camera on and just wave goodbye, and to thank William for such a wonderful talk and a new
Thank you, Jack.
frame
Thank you,
of mind.
Natalia. Thank you, Mattia.
Thank you.